Hey everybody, it's Coach Andrew with Transform Soccer, and welcome to episode 1 of our Because Football podcast. We're starting off our brand new Because Football podcast with an amazing guest. We present to you Laurene Tresfield. Laurene is currently the captain and center back of GPSO 92 ICI in the French Women's Second Division. Laurene sat down to talk with us about her experience growing up as a young girl in France when it wasn't a very popular thing for girls to play football. And from there, her passion and love from the sport led her to being selected for one of the regional training centers in France and eventually play for the French under-17 women's national team. For me, the highlight of this episode is hearing Laurene's story as she chose to leave France, to leave her family, and move to Oklahoma because of her love for soccer. She had never been to the US before. Her English was at a low level. This was a huge risk, and it took great courage and great determination. There's some really great bits here about her first experiences of the United States, of her perspective on American football and how it compares to the soccer culture in France, the differences between French and American soccer styles, as well as some background about the current state of women's football in France, some of its challenges and successes. For all of you aspiring soccer players out there, there are some really good nuggets into how to develop yourself and how to have the right mindset and what things to focus on to really take yourself to the next level. And for the casual soccer fan or soccer parent, there's a lot here that you can get in terms of the different cultures between France and the United States and the different structures of soccer in both. And we want to hear from you in the comments. In your opinion, who is the greatest French soccer player of all time? We have some classics, pulling for Zidane or Henry, or maybe some of the new school who will say Mbappe or Pogba. We'd love to hear your comments, so please put them below. Give us a little bit of a break. This is our first podcast, and we filmed it in the car on the way to the Newark airport as we were preparing to fly to France, where we eventually met Laurene in person and got to see one of her matches. And we've got more content and videos about that match day experience at her club, GPSO ICI, against Stade Brestois. Give us a little bit of grace here, please. There's a little bit of choppiness in terms of the audio and video, but we did our best, and I don't think it takes away from the real gold and nuggets you can take from this episode. It was an absolute pleasure to have Laurene on the podcast. She was an awesome first guest, and we really appreciate her time and sitting down with us. So without further ado, we'd like to introduce you to Laurene Tresfield. Very excited to get this first episode out to all of you. We hope you love it as much as we did, and here we go. So tell us a little bit, first of all, thank you, of course, for joining us. And how do you pronounce your name?
Laurene Tresfield.
Laurene Tresfield. Okay, so almost like the English Lauren, like close.
Yes,
more
yes.
like Laurene. Okay.
I would rather go with Laurene than Laurene. Because when I was in America, people would say Laurene, and I'm like, no, it's too far.
Gotcha. All right, so Laurene. All right, just
yes.
Very nice, cool. And you're from Paris, right?
Yes, I'm from Paris.
Okay, awesome. So, I guess my first question here. What made you decide to leave beautiful, metropolitan, diverse, multicultural, exciting Paris and go to Oklahoma to study and play soccer?
Well, I actually have that question a lot when I left, but to understand, you have to know my story. So I grew up playing soccer and going to school at the same time ever since I was little. And so I went to this high school academy when I was doing both. And when I graduated from high school, I was in between. I was going to school at the university in France, and it was so much of a struggle to go to training and keep playing soccer at the same time.
Okay.
So I was actually thinking about quitting playing or quitting school.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, because we don't have college soccer or any college sports in general. It's really hard to do both. So I was struggling for a year, and then I had this opportunity to go to college in America with a scholarship. So then I just spent the rest of the year learning English, making sure I improve my English. Because I had to take some English test and the SAT and all of that. And just worked out with Oklahoma State University because I had a great connection with the coach, and I also loved the program. He showed me everything, videos, and I was following their team, and I thought it was a great fit for me to go there.
Okay. Wow. So I guess I have two questions. So first, like you were saying, no, in France, there's not really the official athletics competitions and groups in the university, correct? That's all like separate clubs?
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. So like you're saying, it was so hard to do both because the schedules were different. It was different organizations. But in the US, everything is together. So of course, we say you're a student first, athlete second. So, but everything is coordinated to help support you as well.
That's correct. And there you also have all the facilities around you. Everything is easier if you want to do both.
Yeah.
And that was a perfect fit for me. I was really excited about this opportunity because I was like, oh, that's great. I could train in the morning, go to school, train in the afternoon, eat, do everything I need there without struggling. Everything is in the same spot and everything is on campus. So it's really easy. So I was really excited about it.
Yep.
So I just decided to go. I think I was 18 when I left, and I thought it was going to be a big decision because I was leaving my family, my friends. I didn't know where I was going because I had never been to America before.
Absolutely.
And I could only speak English a little. I mean, I had good grades at school, but that's it. Other than that, I never had an experience overseas.
Good grades in school, passing your exam and feeling comfortable in a new country and culture is very different, of course.
Yes, it is very different. But so I just left, and I'm really happy I made that decision because it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, so you didn't even visit Oklahoma State or the schools before you decided to go?
No, it really happened last minute because, like I told you, I was still playing at my club team and still going to school, and then all of a sudden I had this opportunity, and then I think I knew I was leaving for sure in June, and I left in August to go to school in America. So we were just talking with
months.
And yes, it happened so quick that I think I realized that I was leaving when I was actually at the airport with my family. I was like, whoa, this is getting real.
Yeah, like they're staying in Paris, and that's really so amazing to make a decision like that without much previous experience, and just to take a risk like that, to take that kind of courage is really amazing. I think there's so many things that everybody listening, certain things we think about and maybe think too much. You made every decision in a very short period of time, which maybe helped. And what do you remember as like your first memories, driving to the U.S., landing in the airport or whatever it was? Like, what was your first impression, or what will you always remember from your beginning?
Well, I will always remember the first person I saw when I landed was my coach. And he had a big smile. He was so happy to see me. And I was like, oh my God, we have an hour ride. I don't know what I'm going to talk about because I don't speak English that well. So,
awkward.
Yeah, so that was funny. And then when I got on campus, everything just looked so much bigger. And in Oklahoma, there is a lot of land. So we were driving, and it was like, it just seemed like it was a lot of land all around. I was looking around and I couldn't see any big buildings on the drive from Oklahoma City to Stillwater. And then when you arrive on campus, it's like, boom, it's so big. You can see the lights, the stadiums. It was just amazing. I was just amazed, honestly, the first day I landed.
Yeah, and what how was it to adjust to things like the food and the living quarters and things like that when you were starting with this experience?
That was actually really hard, especially the food, because as you know, in France, we love food. Like French food is just amazing. And when you go to America, it's not the same. Even the quality of the food, as far as in fruits and vegetables, it's not the same at all. And especially in Oklahoma, I know they are really big on meat and potatoes, and to get fresh fruits and fresh vegetables, it was hard and it was very expensive. I remember I had to go to the organic stores to get some fresh food, and it was definitely a struggle, but I mean, I was lucky that I could eat with the team. We had a training
Sure.
table, eat together as a team, and I think it made it easier because we always had different choices for food.
Okay, gotcha. And so you found that you had to go to the organic stores just to get some quality
Yes.
produce, like you said. Your fruits and vegetables, of course, is so important for a high level athlete like yourself, to fuel your body right and to be comfortable. That's amazing.
And also for the taste, because when I went to the big stores
Yeah, and the
and
taste.
I
Yeah.
know, I remember I was getting a tomato and I tried at home. The tomato looks so big, but it has no taste. And I'm like, this is
Mm,
not a tomato. It doesn't taste like it. I just
just
felt like
water,
some of
right?
the
Yeah.
veggies tasted like it was plain. And I know in France, when I was flying back to see my family, the first thing I was doing was going to the store with, it was like a farmer's market, a big farmer's market, and I
Okay.
was getting excited
Get
to
some
see all the
fresh.
fruits and vegetables. Yes,
Wow. Wow.
and it was
Man,
also the
well, thanks for
bread.
yeah.
The bread,
Yeah.
I miss the
Thanks
bread
for
so.
sharing that part. What do you think? And the bread, right? Of course, that's what we're looking forward to ourselves. So many things which we'll definitely have to talk about too, and get your recommendations. Um, and what do you think about? I'm curious, because you're in Oklahoma. Like you said, when you get to campus, everything seems so big. It's big Division 1 university, a lot of sports. What was
Mhm.
your first experience of college football, American football? And what was that like? Because I know that in that area of the country, it's like very passionate type of football culture.
Yes, it was actually amazing. It was a show, like a real show. Just going to the game, and it
Yeah,
was crowded and people were singing and everybody was getting so happy and hyped about the game. I just loved it. I was going to every single game I could go because I enjoyed it so much. And we don't really, I mean, we do have
wow,
American
awesome,
football. It's not, it's not the same. It's not professional,
sure.
or it's not, it's just a small league. So going there and actually getting to see all of that, I was really, wow. I was like, wow.
Yeah, like huge
Yeah, it was,
players, right? Like the line of yeah, it's different. And yeah, I think so in Oklahoma State, do they bring like the horse out on the stage
yes,
out before the game and the whole cowboy because it is the Cowboys, right?
yeah.
So um, it's the school mascot. So yeah, you get the full. That is a even for me that would be a really interesting, unique experience because I'm from Philadelphia, which I actually was looking on your Instagram. I think you might have visited Philadelphia before, which is very cool. So definitely would like to hear your experience of that. But for me being from the East Coast of the U.S., we don't have cowboys, right? It's a very different culture. So I'm sure that was really amazing. What would you say is like what did you find was similar about like the maybe the football games in Oklahoma State and some of the the football matches and stadiums in France and like what would be similar or different about the culture within the stadiums?
Like, are we talking soccer or American football?
Soccer, yeah. So how is like the soccer in
Yes.
France, right, and the American football? How would they
Oh,
like similar or different? Do you think
oh,
like
yeah.
within the
Well, I would
stadiums
say it's
the
like
games?
what America has as far of American football, the hype people get and how famous it is there. This is how it gets here when it comes to soccer in France. People are really excited about it, especially men's soccer.
Sure.
Uh, Everybody watches the games, and people will get together to watch the game and support the teams. They go to the stadiums. It's the same thing when it's the national team. People just gather and get together to have fun. So I think, yes, if you would compare sports in France and sports in America, soccer is to France what football is to America. I would say.
Sure, very similar. So, what do you think would be bigger, the like Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma or Texas or something like that, compared with the Coupe du Monde, the World Cup final for France? Maybe in 2018. What do you think is a bigger celebration?
I would still say the World Cup for France in
Yeah,
2000, in the hype.
yeah,
I mean, it's different because here the stadiums and everything that's around the sports is not as big as it is in America. I remember the tailgating before the games. We don't have that here in France. Maybe it's just the cultural states of it are so different that it's hard to compare. But there is definitely in college, I was really not expecting people to be so into it for college sports. And when I was talking about this to my friends in France, they were like, "This is just for the university." It just seems like, I mean, that's what we do here for professional teams, but at the university, you don't expect it to be that big of a thing. And it was I just thought it was amazing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not sure why, but in the U.S., there definitely is such a strong connection between university and sports, especially football, of course, and college basketball as well. You know, I think, maybe because people maybe go to the universities and have the connection. It's interesting to hear, like in France, they don't really understand the passion for just university level, but it's definitely a big deal here in the U.S. How did you find the switching back to soccer, but still within the NCAA Division I level? Oklahoma State is Big 12, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So still, like, definitely one of the biggest conferences for women's soccer in the U.S. What was the level like, coming from playing in France and then coming over and playing Division I, in a big time conference?
Well, I thought that the game was definitely tougher when I was in France. When I was playing for the U19s of my club team, I was one of the biggest girls on the squad, and when I got there, I was one of the smallest ones. So it was definitely different for me. The girls fight, like there is so many jewels in the way they play in America.
Yeah.
And I think in France, it's more a technical game and also tactical.
Sure.
But I think duels are not as hard as they are in America. So I would say in America, it's more athletic.
Yeah, the athleticism, sure. Yeah, and I think that's something we see even on the men's side in the U.S. too. And in the last decade or so, definitely have gotten more technical. I think both on the men's and the women's side. But it's I'm not too surprised to hear you say that, because even watching some of the highlights from like your club and things on YouTube, it just looks like keeping the ball, possessing a little bit more. Do you think that's is that something that you learned and you're taught from a young age in France? Is take care of the ball, or what do you think are the key aspects of like French football style, right, or soccer style?
I think it's also part of it is because we grew up where we grew up. Usually, there is always soccer fields everywhere. So when you're young, you get to play a lot of the ball with your friends. I remember I was outside playing with my friends and my brothers all the time. So I think your touches definitely get better when you play often. I think so. That's part of it, and we also watch a lot of the games for the professional team. So just by watching, you learn a lot as well, and you want to reproduce what they play. So I think that's also another part of it. And we also get to work a lot of our technique when we train with the coaches at the young age. I remember when I was young, we had to learn how to juggle on the right and the left sides. And before the games, we would actually have like a little match between the players we were playing. So let's say
contest. Okay.
Yes, I would have a contest with the other player, and I would have to juggle more than her or him. And then whoever wins overall, you get a point for your team. And if it's a tie, then it would be the break would be who won the contest.
Okay. And that's even like in preparation for the match, like right before the kickoff.
It was yes, it was before the kickoff.
Okay. Wow, very cool. Because for me as a coach, it's something I do try to impress upon and try to explain to my players the importance of juggling, like you said. Sometimes they don't see the connection right away because they think, why would we just need to kick the ball up in the air? A lot of times it's like a circus or something. But what do you think? What would you tell a young player in the United States or anywhere? Like, what is the value of juggling? How does it help you as a footballer?
It's just improving your touch, because you have to control the ball so much in the game that if you can control it, air and feel the weight of the ball when you're juggling. It's going to get easier when the ball is in the air to get it quick on the ground and start playing. So I know back then when I was younger, I didn't understand why we needed to do that, but now I do. And now I think that's what makes the difference between a good player and a great player technically, because when you get to the high level, the game is so much faster that if your technique is not good enough and you take more time to get the ball on the ground, then it's a lot harder for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And do you think so you talked about playing a lot like with your brothers, your family, your friends, just because there's fields everywhere in Paris, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to play in a free environment, right, without coaching. So you have that freedom to play. But then even in your training sessions, you said you were always taught to really focus on the technical side of things.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, outside of maybe just playing or like with your friends or outside of your regular team training sessions, did you ever do any extra training on your own, like, or physical training or mental mindset training? Like, what else can you look back and say, hey, I did this and this really helped me become the player that I am today?
Well, yes, for me, it was a lot of individual sessions. I know I would get on the ball also by myself and work on my technique, and also watch games because I think that helps a lot. But yeah, definitely you have to go on yourself and try to do things, spend more time with the ball, getting to know the ball and control it better. And yeah, that's definitely how you get better. The more training you get, the better you get, I think.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. How would you say that in the US, like the style of coaching, how is that? How would you compare that with the French style? Maybe the personality or the communication style, or maybe what the coaches talk about and what they focus on. Like, how would you say they're the same or different?
I would say they are different. There, I remember the emphasis was mainly on being very athletic, running. We run, we never stop. So it was a lot of running, and we need to be strong in duel,
Got to be fit.
ball, and win the headers. And so it was really being an athlete. To be better on the field, you needed to be an athlete. Otherwise, you just can't match up the level of the other players. And here in France, what they talk about is more like tactical stuff. If someone is stepping on the ball, who needs to compensate, and like the movement of the players of the ball. And we also study the opponent, do a lot of technical drills. But we don't really, I mean, we do have that side that we need to be really athletic, but it's not as much as what it was in America.
Right, of course.
It's
okay,
really
a little bit, sounds a little bit more balanced.
Yes, it's more like small games, small-sided games, combining, getting touch with the ball. But it's not as much as lifting so heavy, running all over the field. No, it's not like that.
Okay, excellent. Great. And what do you think? I'm curious. You talked a lot about. You said a few times now. You said it's so important to watch games, right? So it's so important to watch the game in order to learn and just pick things up. And that's something that's a challenge in the United States. Although on the women's side, the U.S. women's team is always one of the strongest. So we're very fortunate for our young girls to be able to have them as role models. And now on the boys' side and on the men's side, we had a solid showing in the World Cup. It's we would call it our golden generation right now, or the best it's been in a while. But it's still culturally, it's not common to watch soccer. It's common to watch football, or basketball. Yeah. So it's not quite as common. When you were growing up, who were some of your like idols and role models and heroes that you tried to like match their style or you took inspiration from?
Well, for me, it was not a player in particular. It was just the French national team. I just thought it was always a show to have them on the field. I know I was always looking at Zidane and I was like, wow, he is just amazing. Yeah. And I just love watching the games because, I thought it was great, but I didn't really have one specific player that I was following all over. For me, it was just, watching the game in general, I would say. Or watching the Champions League, the World Cup, all of that. I was just I was just always watching TV when there was a game on.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them, right? There's a lot of options for that. So, what do you think as far as like watching the game and having those heroes? What do you think is like the earliest time when you were a kid when you were like, all right, I want to play, like I love soccer, I want to play at as high a level as possible. How old were you, and what was the time when you got like a little more serious about your development?
Well, for me, I would say it was when there was 2 steps. So I think I started playing when I was 6 years old, and I was playing with the little boys, and I was just playing for fun. And then when I went to high school, I mean, I actually went to middle school, and it was a boarding school as well. And I was training with the boys at the time and going to school at the same time. And it was only 2 girls in the program. So that's when I realized, oh, maybe there is something I can do. Maybe I'm not that bad. And then I went to high school, and it was one of the top academies in France for high school, soccer high school. Fontaine, so it's the academy where Mbappe and all those players train. So we have the same for women's as well, and we have 5 academies like that in France.
Okay.
And so when I went to high school, I was in one of those academies, and that's where I realized maybe there is something I can do, because we were training in the morning, then we had school, then we train again in the afternoon, and I really liked it. I was like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And then the second part of it was when I was in America. I remember myself enjoying preseason, because preseason was just playing soccer, sleeping, eating, playing soccer, and you repeat this 3 times a day. And I remember I was loving it. And I'm like, this is what I need to be doing.
Most players hate it. And
yes.
Most players are dreading preseason, the fitness, the running. It's so hard. You're getting blisters. You're sore all the time.
Exactly. That's what I loved. So, I loved it.
Yeah.
I really loved it. I remember I was telling my coach, I love this. I need to be doing this. And he said, yes, so you need to go play professional if that's what you love to do. And I was like, whoa.
Sure. Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah. Awesome. And then you mentioned that was such a great answer, because you gave such a clear kind of idea of what it's like for, a female footballer in France to start. Of course, in the US, you can start whatever age. We have girls teams, we have boys teams, we have a really good structure and organization. But it sounds like in France, if you're a girl who loves soccer, you have to play with the boys for a few years until like what age do you normally see more like typically like girls only teams and competitions?
Well, that's how it was like a long time ago. When I started, it was like that, but now it has developed. When I started, I started at 6 years old, and I was with the boys until the age of 15. And then when you turn 15, you have to play with the girls. It's mandatory. Okay. But now we also have, we also have clubs for the little ones, the girls, and a lot of professional clubs for men's and women's also have teams for the youth. So you can start being like my club. I know does it. As well, you can play with the girls only. It just depends on what you want to do. You can do both up to the age of 15.
Okay, gotcha. So it has, in the last few years, you're saying it has changed a little bit. It's more common now that for girls to play. All right, excellent.
Yeah, improved a lot.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said it has improved a lot, actually, for the last 10 years. It's getting better because we have more teams and more players now. So now the girls get to pick if they want to play in the girls only team or if they want to do with the boys as well.
Sure. Okay. And why do you think that is? Why do you think I would assume there's more opportunities because it's becoming more popular among the girls to play? Like, what do you think has changed since you started? And between, when you started and then now today for a girl who's going to start at 6 or 7 years old?
Well, now they have more options. I know when I started, it was not that common to have girls playing soccer. In the mentalities, people were thinking, "Oh, you're a girl, you shouldn't be playing soccer. It's a men's sport. Like you don't have anything to do here. Like, what are you doing?" Right. So That's how it was when I grew up, but now the mentality changes, and I think the World Cup that happened in France helped a lot because now women's
Okay.
soccer has a lot of visibility, and people start to accept
Right.
the fact that women can play soccer as well. So now it's way more common than what it
Definitely.
used to
And when was the World Cup in France? Was it
2017, I believe.
2017?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, all right, excellent. Yeah, because that was kind of my next question here of like, do you think there was a certain time that really, a certain moment or event that changed it? So that sounds like a big
Mm-hmm.
catalyst, a big opportunity, and it sounds like French, football definitely grasped that. I was doing a little bit of research, and among UEFA, right, among all the European countries, the French Women's League is ranked as the number one, based on their ratings and their coefficients. I know that the Olympic Lyon women's team wins the Champions League almost every year. Like they make it boring. They're so good and so dominant. Um, but um, but then the French women's national team hasn't had the same type of success necessarily. You look now, if I think off the top of my head, a team like England, right? The
Mm-hmm.
Netherlands has been really strong, and then France maybe occupying that third or fourth spot, close to like a Spain or Germany is always strong as well. In the past, it was like Sweden, Denmark. In the '90s, those women's teams were so strong. Why do you think that the league has been a bit stronger than the national team up to this point?
Well, for me, is that I mean the club, like you were saying, Lyon was dominating everything. But if you look at it now, the other teams are catching up, and that
Okay,
is because I think we have developed since the World Cup in France. Like I said, the Women's World Cup in France, it got a lot better. But now I think it's starting to be, people think that this is enough for us. So it's slowing down a little bit. It feels like everything is slowing down a little bit, and I think
okay,
this is why countries are catching up on us because now,
gotcha.
like, we still need to develop the leagues, the first division, the second division. There's still a lot more that we need to be doing in order to
Right.
keep going in the clubs, but also for the national team.
Sure. Yeah, football is always changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The leader's the strongest team. You have to be hungry and come up with a strong plan, and certainly be dedicated to it. You can't be complacent, right? Can't rest
Yes.
on yesterday. Um, and explain a little bit about the women's football in France, like how the leagues are set up. So I know that your club, EC, is in the second division,
Yes.
and then how many teams are in the first division of French football?
It's only 12 teams in the first division.
Okay.
And yeah, so I got to play in the first division. It was 2 years ago when I was in Le Havre, and it's only 12 teams in the first division. The last two get relegated, and then and the first three make it to the Champions League.
Okay, gotcha.
And then
And are those sure?
it's 12. It's two groups of 12 teams, so 24 teams. And like I was telling
Okay.
you now, next year they are trying to make a third division that is more competitive. And so this year, the last 6 teams of each group of the Division 2 are moving down to Division 3.
Okay, well, and they will form the Division 3 for next
Yes,
season. Okay,
yes.
gotcha. All right. And then would you say like at the Division 1 level, like are these players, are they full-time soccer players? Are they doing other jobs? Like what's the opportunity like as a career?
It is hard because not all the players are professional. Like some girls work on the side, and I think that's one of the main issues. If you look at the other teams in Europe, if you compare the teams in France and the teams in Europe, is that our league
Right.
is not professional, like fully professional. And I think that's the thing because there is so much inequity between the teams. The top teams have a lot of players that are professional that don't work on the side. But if you look at the bottom teams in Division 1, some of the girls have to work. and also be soccer players. So it's hard to compete.
Gotcha. And so what is your goal, as a player? You're still playing, right? And I imagine, do you do other work on the side, or how does that usually work? Like maybe more during the season or not, or what else do you do?
No, well, I'm lucky. I'm on a contract, so I'm considered as professional. So I don't need to work on it. But it's not all the girls get the same chance, even on our team. So I consider myself as lucky, and my goal would be to either play for a Division 1 team in France, or maybe why not have another experience overseas.
Sure. Yeah. Excellent. Awesome. Well, we wish you the best with that. And keep working hard. We're looking forward to see the match on the weekend, and have continue to have a great career, and see what more things that the game is. Company.
Hello?
And that's how I do a lot of my coaching. We're going to start this podcast called Because Football.
Okay.
And basically, with the idea being like, something happened like because football, or because football, like this conversation is a great example, right? Because of football, I was able to reach out to you, contact you as a total stranger on the internet, right? And now we're having this great conversation and connection. So how would you answer, or how would you complete the sentence, because football? What has football meant to you in your life?
Well, because football, I got the experience to go to America and had this amazing experience going to college and playing soccer at the same time. And because football, I graduated from America. I got my degree in America. And I've met so many amazing people along the way. So many friends from all over the world. So yeah, I just think football brings people together, and it just brings so much joy and happiness overall.
Yeah. Awesome. I agree completely. Laurene, thank you so much for sharing with us. It's been great.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I really enjoyed talking to you.
All right. Thank you all so much for watching. We appreciate your attention and your time. We hope you enjoyed it. We loved it. Please, if you can think of a friend or a teammate or a colleague, someone who could get a lot from the inspiration of Laurene's story, of the courage and the passion that she has showed through her soccer career, we would love for you to share it and spread the word. And of course, there's so much more to come here from Transform Soccer and the Because Football podcast. So please give us a thumbs up or a like or whatever is the newest thing on YouTube, because I don't even know right now, because we're babies with this. And of course, if you could subscribe so you're going to get updates on all our new videos, we would love that as well. And don't forget, in the comments, very important, who, in your opinion, is the greatest French soccer player or footballer of all time? We would love to hear it. Thank you again so much for watching and listening. We can't wait to see you to the next one. Until then, au revoir.